Welcome to Transport Vlog. My name is Paul and I'm overlooking Trains Facility South, and there's now a lot of track in place, so let's check it out. I'll start with the track laying for the sidings and junctions because that's the most exciting and geeky part, well for me anyway. I'll then update you on how the various buildings are progressing. You'll then see some footage from the train in both directions, and then I'll finish off with an update on Sydenham station. This map displays the track layout and building locations. The Bedwin Road Bridge is on the left and the Marrickville shopping centre is here. Sydenham station is just off the map on the right. In this video I will be using my own terminology to refer to four specific tracks. These are the North East Shunt Track, which runs alongside the existing rail corridor, the North East Access Track, which enters Trains Facility South from this side, and then on the other side the South West Shunt Track, which runs adjacent to the northbound metro line and finishes in Sydenham station. And finally the Workshop Track, which runs in front of the buildings. I'm sure Sydney Metro have official names for these tracks, and if you know what these are, do share this in the comments below. This was on the 26th of March 2022. Stanchions and gantries for the electrification wires had appeared, along with lots of rails. This footage was taken from Bedwin Road, which is behind me. Now viewing from the Marrickville Metro Shopping Centre car park, and you can see the rails waiting to be laid along with a few sleepers. By the 16th of April more rails had appeared, and these have been separated into several groups. Here are some closer views of these new rails. By the 4th of May the rails for 4 of the 8 sidings had been laid, and the rails for the remaining sidings were over on the right. By looking from this side and then zooming in, you can see some of the laid tracks more clearly, along with rails for the remaining ones. At this time, the tracks only ran up to just beyond this electrification gantry. You can see how they end just here, with rails waiting to be laid beyond this point. In early May, continuing earthwork prevented the tracks from being extended further. You can see the huge pile of ballast. This will become the bottom ballast for the tracks once the earthworks has been completed. On this map, I've marked the 4 tracks that are now in place in black and numbered them as sidings 1 to 4. I've numbered the remaining sidings as 5 to 8. Again, this is my numbering system, but I reckon I have a 50-50 chance that it will be the same as Sydney Metro's. By the 26th of May, all 8 sidings were in place at this end. Here are sidings 1 to 4. And now sidings 5 to 7, which are currently sitting on the bottom ballast. The top ballast will be added shortly. Siding 8 is behind this wall. This is now on the 5th of June. Parts of sidings 5 and 7 and most of siding 6 now have the top ballast, which is why the sleepers are no longer visible. And here is a clearer view of the wall that siding 8 is hiding behind. You can now see siding 8, which is closest. Siding 7 has some sleepers on top of it. All 8 sidings are now visible. Notice the concrete pillars appearing on either side of siding 8. At this point, sidings 1 to 7 now have their top ballast. I'm very curious as to the reasons why siding 8 continues to be between these pillars. If you have any ideas, do let me know in the comments. The sidings have now been extended further, as you can see here. And this is where the North East Access Track starts to ascend. It looks like this has track as well, at least up to the concrete walls. The covered storage building, previously known as the logistics shed, blocks the view of the sidings, so I reckon they extend to around here, or possibly further, as I will reveal shortly. I'll now bring you up to date with the southwest side of Trains Facility South, including the work to create the junctions. Back to the 26th of March, and most of the stanchions and some of the gantries for the overhead wires were already in place, despite the ground levelling work that was happening around them. By the 16th of April, most of the ground levelling work had been completed. The Sydney Metro running lines are more visible now. A further visit on the 26th of May revealed that work had started to lay the bottom ballast. Here is a closer view of the Metro running lines and also the current start of the North East Shunt Track. You can see the start of a new track here and one or maybe two junctions here. It's now the 5th of June, so just over 1 week later, and you can now see two new tracks on the left. This line is the northeast access track, and the line next to it, which is mainly sleepers only, will become siding 1. So as you can see, once the bottom ballast is in place, the next step is to add the sleepers, and then place the rails on top and fasten them securely to the sleepers. Track laying is highly automated these days, with machines that automatically space the sleepers, lay the rails and fasten them into place. This is why track laying can happen very quickly. In the distance, you can see a few more sleepers in place and then a new turnout. This will be for the northeast access track and siding 1. This track then continues to another turnout that connects with the northbound running line. You can now see the start of two new tracks here. That's quite a lot to take in, so let's see how this all looks on the map. All the track that had been laid by the 5th of June is displayed in black. The northeast access track now has new rails and sleepers in place just here. The elevated section will be on a concrete track bed, so I think track laying on this section is still a few weeks away. Siding 1 is now a little longer, although much of the new bit is just sleepers. We then have a new turnout for siding 1 and the northeast access track. And the start of two tracks to access further sidings and the workshop. And finally, a turnout to connect with the northbound metro line and the southwest shunt track. It's now 1 week later on the 11th of June, and a huge amount of track has appeared from nowhere thanks to a number of lean, mean track laying machines. Looking towards the left, you can see 7 tracks in total. This includes the northeast access track and siding 1 from the previous week, and sidings 2 to 6 which have now been extended. Sidings 5 and 6 now finish here, and beyond this point you can see that the sleepers have been laid for siding 4. And you can now see the start of the two tracks that were there the week before. Here is a closer view. You can see that the top ballast is being added to these siding tracks at the moment. And the majority of the newer track is sitting on the bottom ballast with the sleepers fully visible. This turnout is for the northeast access track and siding 1. And this turnout in front of it is for sidings 2 and 3. This turnout coming into view then connects these two tracks together. Siding 4 and sidings 5 and 6 will in future connect with this track here. This is the concrete track slab with embedded grooves for the rails for the future workshop track. It's similar to tram tracks and those used at level crossings, so I guess road vehicles will use this as well as metro trains. The week before, on the 5th of June, it looked like this, which is probably why I didn't notice it then. It seems like this workshop track will continue within an embedded track slab running alongside the workshop and covered storage building. And interestingly, a small section of the Sydney Metro lines just before the tunnel portal entrance are also within an embedded track slab. Anyway, I hope you're keeping track of what is going on here. Perhaps another map recap will help. So the northeast access track is now complete except for the elevated section. All the track for sidings 2 and 3 has now been laid, including this turnout to connect them together. And then this turnout to connect it to the northeast access track and siding 1. And you can see how the remaining sidings and the workshop track will connect to this turnout in the future. And although I can't display it in black yet, the embedded track bed for the workshop track is progressing quite rapidly. So I've geeked out on the new track, so I'm now going to cover the buildings. The high voltage and services buildings are part of the overall operation of Sydney Metro, so I'll cover these first. The high voltage or HV building currently consists of these two white units. However, black vertical posts are now appearing to the right of it, along with these black units and the beginnings of another building next to it. This is how it looked 1 month earlier on the 4th of May. Now looking from Bedwin Road, and the black posts are very obvious here. This is the services building, along with the stanchions that mark the end of the sidings in front. Here is a closer view of this building. Both the HV and services buildings will have access to the tunnel portal below. Although the line is underground here, the actual twin tunnels don't start until just before the Bedwin Road bridge. On the 26th of March, the services building looks similar to now, but it didn't have a complete roof. Now here's an update on the buildings that will form part of Trains Facility South. I'll start with the reception, security and fire control building. The main change is the addition of metal supports for the roof and canopy. The brickwork is quite visible at the moment, but it will soon be covered with dark coloured insulation panels. This is how this building looked on the 26th of March. Next to the fire control room building is the covered storage building, which used to be known as the logistics shed. The main additions since March are the roller shutter doors. There are 2 on each side. A new concrete paved area now connects the covered storage building with the workshop buildings, and as you now know, the workshop track is embedded within this. The next building remains a mystery, so I'm going to assume that it's part of the workshop. Here is this building, and the workshop behind it. The workshop has changed very little since March and is still predominantly a metal frame only. This was the mystery building as it looked back in late March, and you can see that the workshop building behind it hasn't really changed. Here is a view of the workshop from Sydney Steel Road. After the workshop building we have the admin building, which is now coming into view, and it looks like it will have a balcony. This is how it looked back in March. Since then, the brickwork has been covered up with these dark insulation panels. The admin building will have 2 floors, and the upper floor will have this enclosed balcony area, which will provide panoramic views of the whole site. This is how the water treatment plant is now looking. 2 large cylindrical water tanks are now in place. Here is a view from close to Sydenham pit through the trees. This is 1 month earlier on the 4th of May. The space to the right is where the large water tank now is, and the smaller tank on the left is now where this scaffolding used to be. So of all the new buildings, this is the one that has changed quite dramatically in just a couple of months. Lots has happened with the overhead wire equipment since my last update, but it's hard to spot the changes from here, so it's time for some on-train footage. This was on the 28th of March, and 7 new electrification gantries were already in place within the sidings area. And there's a new stanchion here for the northeast access track. These 2 stanchions were waiting for the gantry to be added. Just here are the last 2 gantries that had been installed within Trains Facility South by the 28th of March. The gantries for the north and southbound running lines into Sydenham Station, such as this one, have been in place for a few months now. You can now see a number of stanchions. These are for the future tracks and junctions within Trains Facility South. These 2 stanchions are for one of the access tracks, and this one here is for the northeast shunt track. This longer gantry will be over the junctions into Trains Facility South. So now down to 3 tracks, the southbound and northbound running lines and the southwest shunt track, and these gantries are for these lines. This extra stanchion is for the southwest shunt track, along with this one here, which also has a horizontal beam and vertical support. Finally, 2 more stanchions here, which I guess are for the 2 metro lines. Now let's jump forward a few weeks. It's now the 16th of April, and lots of earthwork is happening in this area where the future northeast shunt track will be. The gantry has now been added to these 2 stanchions. Another gantry has appeared here, and this stanchion now has a horizontal beam, along with this one, and this one, and a new stanchion and horizontal beam for the southwest shunt track. No further changes from here, so let's jump forward a few more weeks. This is on the 11th of June, starting at the Bedouin Road Bridge, and you can see the HV and services buildings from this side. Here is the track slab for the northeast access track. This has appeared within the last 2 weeks. And then 4 new stanchions for this track, which are attached to the concrete walls on either side of the track bed. These 4 stanchions were installed during the latter half of May. Still lots of materials where the future northeast shunt track will go. The blue covers mark where the Sydney Metro lines ascend to the surface, and behind it you can see the newly laid tracks, with the northeast access track being closest. Gantries have been added to the stanchions here and here. And also here and here as well. So that's 4 new gantries, and they all went in during the second half of May. In this direction I focused mainly on the new electrification supports. Now for one more trip in the other direction, which will focus more on the track. This footage was on the 11th of June, and as this train leaves Sydenham station you can see the southwest shunt track over on the left. And now the double crossover junction. Now coming into view are 2 turnouts. And this track veering to the right is the northeast shunt track. Although you couldn't see it, this turnout provides a connection to the southwest shunt track as well as access to Trains Facility South. These vehicles are on both the southbound and northbound metro tracks, so that's obstructing my view of the junctions, but I know they have important work to do, and they were there before me. Just here I can definitely see 2 tracks and possibly a turnout too, so I'm guessing that this is here on the map. These vehicles could be here to install some kind of cabling, possibly overhead wires, but I'm not quite sure. The newly laid track within Trains Facility South is very visible now. And where this truck is, the 2 metro lines switch from ballast and sleepers to a concrete track bed with embedded rails. I mentioned this earlier, but you get a better view of it from the train. Interesting that there is ballast over both tracks at the start of the descent, as I thought the rails were directly attached to concrete at this point. You can now watch the metro tracks as they descend into the tunnel portal and enjoy seeing all the freshly laid track within Trains Facility South. The tracks go underground at the end of these blue covers, but that's not where the 2 twin tunnels start. Between these concrete walls is the track bed for the northeast access track. And you can now see it joining the northeast shunt track. Here is another view of the services and the high voltage buildings, and under these buildings is where the 2 twin tunnels start. Now outside the new Railway Parade entrance to Sydenham station, and this path here has opened up. It leads to a Sydney Water car park for Sydenham Pit. By peering through the car park fence you can get glimpses of the southwest shunt track, and I think this track ends around here. And through another gap in the fence, a quick peek at the new secure bicycle shed. There are plenty of signs directing passengers to the existing entrance, and this is the new entrance, which leads directly to platform 1 and to the new aerial concourse. Railway Parade is also a good place to view the platform screen doors, although I didn't notice much change here since my last video. Here is another view. You can also see a next train display as well. Here is a close-up of some platform screen doors waiting to be installed. These were taken from some gaps in the fence on platform 3. You can see some platform screen doors for platform 2 in the background. Behind me is the new Burrows Avenue entrance, and Sydney Metro are saying that this entrance, along with part of the aerial concourse, is likely to open in the next few weeks. So I'm guessing that's probably going to be this month in June or in July. Here is a view of this new entrance from the other side of Burrows Avenue. The entrance supports the new aerial concourse, which is directly above it. The entrance has these roller shutter doors, and then the next train displays on the left. The information displays are already working, so it can't be long now. I noticed some passengers walking along Burrows Avenue looking at these new displays and then legging it to the existing station entrance. That was fun to watch. The new entrance leads directly to platform 6, and passengers can use the stairs or lifts to access the other platforms. Here are some views from the other side, with the lift and bicycle hoops on the right. The entrance is surrounded by protective barriers to keep motor vehicles well away. And like at the Railway Parade entrance, there is a secure bicycle shed at this entrance as well. There are a few seats outside the entrance, and these are opposite the secure bicycle shed. So I'll wrap up the video here. So if you enjoyed it, do give it a like, give it a thumbs up, do leave a comment or question below. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, and also consider supporting me on Patreon. One of the perks is you get access to these videos 2 or 3 days before everyone else. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye for now.